Hello, and welcome to this GovHack digital conference session on a guide to open sourcing your GovHack projects. Before getting started, I would like to acknowledge the Gadigal people of the Eora Nation, the traditional custodians, the, the traditional custodians of this land from which I am streaming, and pay my respects to elders past and present. I'm so glad to have you all here with me today. Your thoughts and opinions matter to me. So please don't hesitate to share your comments, questions, and ideas in the chat. Let's make this an interactive and engaging experience for all. Feel free to join in on the discussion, and let's get started. My name is Matthew Watt. Okay, we're going to start with the word open. The content on this subject around what we're going to be presenting today is starting with open. And so what I've just pulled up here is a dictionary definition. So open is more than just a simple word or a descriptor. It's a transformative principle that invites collaboration, facilitates transparency, and encourages a collective approach to growth. In the world of software, open shatters the traditional walls of proprietary restrictions. Open source software, for instance, refers to code that is available to everyone to modify and improve and distribute. It's about sharing knowledge freely, allowing innovation to thrive from communal collaboration rather than individual secrecy. Similarly, open data is data that is freely available to everyone to use and republish without restrictions from copyright, patents, or other mechanisms of control. It's a tool for democratizing information, breaking down information hierarchies, fostering transparency, enabling widespread innovation. In both these contexts, open is a catalyst for growth. It challenges conventional paradigms, inspires community participation, and paves the way for faster, more diverse innovation. As we explore the world of open today, let's remember that it's not just about technology or data, it's about a mindset of sharing, collaboration, and continual improvement. Open data, in essence, is data that can be freely used, reused, and redistributed by anyone. It's subject only at most to the requirements to be attributed and share alike. This definition might sound simple on the surface, but the implications are far-reaching and transformative. Open data is not merely a type of data, it's a movement, a philosophy that encourages transparency and fosters innovation, and enables a shared knowledge economy. One of the most compelling aspects of open data is its potential to cross-sectional impact, from government agencies to private companies, from academic researchers to everyday citizens. Everyone stands to benefit. When governments open their data sets, it brings about an unprecedented level of transparency and accountability. It allows citizens to be more informed, to contribute to policymaking, and to scrutinise their elected officials. In the private sector, open data can spur business, innovation, and growth. Companies can use open data to understand market trends, inform their strategies, and develop new data-driven products and services. It's akin to having a shared pool of resources that any company, regardless of its size or industry, can tap into. For researchers and academics, open data can dramatically accelerate the pace of discovery. Instead of each researcher collecting data individually, they can build on each other's work, cross-verify findings, and collaborate on a scale that was previously unimaginable. While the potential for open data is immense, it is not without its challenges. Questions around data privacy, data quality, and interoperability, and the digital divide are critical considerations that need to be addressed. But the way forward is not to retreat from open data, but to engage more deeply, to navigate these challenges together. Open data signifies a shift from data as a closely guarded asset to data as a shared resource, from data as a source of power to data as a tool of empowerment. The concept of open source finds its roots from the early hacker culture in the 1960s and 70s. Primarily the Massachusetts Institute of Technology, MIT, where the first instances of free software sharing occurred. However, it was Richard Stallman's launch of the GNU project in 1983, aiming to create a completely free operating system that truly sowed the seeds of the open source movement. Stallman also founded the Free Software Foundation and pioneered the concept of copyleft, a principle that uses copyright law to preserve the right to use, modify, and distribute code, instead of restricting those rights. In 1988, a momentous event happened. The term open source was officially coined, and the Open Source Initiative, OSI, was founded. This movement was a breakaway from the free software movement, largely over philosophical differences, but the goal was similar: promote access to the end product's source materials. The OSI continues to be a leading advocacy organization for open source software today. Fast forward to the advent of platforms like GitHub, which take the open source movement to new heights. Launched in 2008, GitHub provides a platform for version control using Git, where developers can collaborate on projects. GitHub revolutionized the way we approach open source, making it far easier to contribute to projects, fork code bases, and manage changes. Today, it hosts millions of developers who are collectively building the future of software. Open source, bolstered by platforms like GitHub, allow for democratization of software development that was unthinkable a few decades ago. It allows anyone, from a rookie software developer in their bedroom to a seasoned professional in Silicon Valley tech giant, to collaborate, learn from each other, and contribute to a global body of code. It's a movement that's transformed the landscape of software development and will continue to shape its future. Like any transformative movement, open source also poses its own challenges, primarily around the sustainability and fair compensation. While it created opportunities for global collaboration, the reliance on voluntary contributions and the lack of direct monetary reward can lead to issues like developer burnout and project abandonment. Navigating these challenges is the key aspect of ongoing evolution of the open source movement. The history and evolution of open source is a testament to the power of collective intelligence and collaboration. In the world of open source development, licenses are of paramount importance. They specify the terms under which software can be used, modified, and distributed by others. It's essentially a project's long-term health and community participation, as they establish legal clarity. However, the array of available open source licenses and their varying terms can often be daunting, especially for newcomers to the scene. That's where GitHub's Choose a License tool comes in. Introduced as part of GitHub's ongoing efforts to simplify and promote open source contribution, this tool has been embraced by many developers around the world. It offers an easy, user-friendly way to understand, compare, and select appropriate licenses for projects. It demystifies the complex language often found in legal documents and presents information in a more digestible format, highlighting the key permissions, conditions, and limitations of each license. Many developers, both seasoned and new, find this tool incredibly useful. For one, it aids the making informed decisions about licenses, thereby enhancing legal robustness of their projects. It helps ensure that developers' work is used in ways that they're comfortable with, whether that's allowing commercial use, requiring source changes be shared back to them, or simply making the software freely available for any use with no strings attached. Choose a license also educates about the importance of including a license in open source projects. Without a license, others have no permission from the creator to use, modify, or share the work, contrary to the collaborative spirit of open source. This message is propagated by the tool, has encouraged more developers to include a license in their project, ultimately aiding the growth of open source software. While many developers choose a license, it is very important to mention it is a guide and does not replace legal advice. Particularly for large and complex projects, consulting a legal expert on licensing can still be a prudent course of action. GitHub's Choose a License tool is a powerful resource for the community, simplifying the complex world of open source licensing, making it easy for everyone to contribute and share their creations with confidence. The use of this tool reflects the ongoing commitment of the open source community towards transparency, collaboration, and respect for the intentions of the individual creators. I now want to introduce you to a luminary figure that was not only a pivotal force in the world of open source, but a strong advocate for information accessibility, internet freedom, Aaron Swartz. Born in 1986, Aaron Swartz was a computer programming prodigy. At a young age, he authored the RSS version 1 specification, which is used for publishing frequently updated information such as blog entries and news headlines. Swartz was also one of the early architects of Creative Commons and Reddit, both of which have left an indelible imprint in the digital landscape. Perhaps more important than his technical contributions, Swartz was deeply committed to the social justice, advocating passionately for open source access to information. He believed that the world's knowledge should not be locked behind paywalls, but freely available to all, to educate, to inspire, and to enable progress. His untimely death in 2013 was a profound loss, but his legacy continues to influence the realms of open data, open source, and internet freedoms. Building upon Aaron's commitment to open information, let's discuss a tool that he helped create. The Creative Commons Attribution License, or CC BY. Creative Commons, an organization Swartz contributed to in its formative years, offers a suite of copyright licenses to help creators maintain their copyright while allowing others to copy, distribute, and make use of their work. The CC BY license is perhaps the most open of these. It allows others to distribute, remix, adapt, and build upon your work, even commercially, as long as they credit you for the original creation. This is the most accommodating of the license offered in terms of what others can do with the work. It's easy to see how this embodies the principles of what's being discussed. It empowers creators to contribute to the global pool of freely available resources while still receiving recognition of their work. It stimulates creativity, innovation, and collaboration, mirroring the ethos of the open source community that Swartz was part of. The CC BY tool and the philosophy behind it can be seen as a reflection of Aaron Swartz's life mission, promoting openness, collaboration, and the free exchange of ideas. This ethos, embodied in the tools like CC BY and platforms like GitHub, continue to shape the landscape of the digital world, making it more inclusive, democratic, and innovative. GovHack, for those unfamiliar with the name, is an international competition that brings together people from various disciplines to collaborate on projects that use open government data to make our communities better places. It's an extraordinary event that highlights the power of open data and its ability to drive societal progress. A key tenet of GovHack, and indeed its most transformative aspect, is its insistence that all entries must be open source. This rule aligns perfectly with the spirit and philosophy of the event, which promotes openness, collaboration, and transparency. By requiring entries to be open source, GovHack encourages participants to contribute to the shared pool of knowledge that can benefit all of society, not just the competition. This rule allows for continual improvement and adaptation of projects, even after the event has concluded. It invites a global community of developers, researchers, and interested individuals to build upon the work during the competition, fostering a culture of continual learning and innovation. The open source requirement also enhances transparency. It allows others to see exactly the project has been put together, what methodologies have been used, and what outcomes are. This transparency not only supports rigorous peer review and validation of the work, but it also serves as a valuable education resource for others who wish to learn from these projects. The open source rule is a practical implementation of the ethos of GovHack. It transforms the competition from a one-off event into a continuing global collaborative effort embodying the principles of open source and open data movements. It's a testament to the potential these movements hold for creating more connected, transparent, and innovative world. When you create a new repository in GitHub, you're under no obligation to choose a license. However, what might not be immediately apparent is that without a license, the default copyright law comes into effect. This means that, by default, you retain all rights to your source code, and nobody else may reproduce, distribute, or create derivatives of your work from your work. This is a proactive measure designed to safeguard the rights of the creator. However, this is where the potential issue arises with a GovHack entry, or indeed any project intended to be open source. The heart of the open source philosophy lies in a shared knowledge and collaboration, which fundamentally requires others to have the rights to use, modify, and distribute your work. By not including a license, your GitHub project essentially becomes closed source, contrary to principles of open source. In the context of GovHack, contrary to its rules. If GovHack entries were to be hosted on GitHub without a license, it would technically be in violation of the competition rules, even if it was publicly accessible. The project would not be considered open source because legally, others do not have the right to reproduce, distribute, or create derivatives from that work. This highlights the importance of consciously choosing an appropriate open source license for your GitHub project. Platforms like GitHub's Choose a License, Creative Commons, or other sources available on the internet can be invaluable in helping you understand and select a license that aligns with your intentions for your project. By selecting an open source license, you're explicitly granting permission that allows others to engage with your work in a manner that aligns with the open source ethos. So I mentioned at the start that I did want to encourage a conversation, and it can happen now in the comments, it can happen in the comments after the video is posted as well. But to trigger that conversation, I did want to raise a few points. Questions, discussion points. Open source licensing encourages a sense of community among hackathon participants, as they're able to freely contribute to projects. This communal approach can lead to unique and diverse inputs, driving up the quality of the final product. It could be interesting to discuss how to best facilitate this collaboration environment and what potential challenges could arise. Utilizing open source software in a hackathon can significantly reduce development time. Participants can leverage pre-built components and modules, saving time on developing these from scratch. What are some ways to efficiently identify and use these resources for a time-limited event like a hackathon? Open source licenses are often synonymous with transparency, as the source code is freely accessible. This transparency fosters trust among participants and stakeholders. Could there be drawbacks to this level of transparency? And if so, how could they be mitigated? With open source, innovation becomes a communal activity. As each contributor brings a unique perspective, the project can benefit in a wide array of ideas and solutions. How could teams best leverage this pool of innovation? In a hackathon, multiple teams could be working on similar problems. Open source licensing can facilitate sharing of solutions, leading to healthy exchange of ideas. What could be some of the ground rules for encouraging this cross-pollination while ensuring fair competition? Open source licensing can help avoid intellectual property disputes. These licenses specify how the software can be used and modified, provide legal clarity. But what other legal implications should participants be aware of when they're using open source? Open source projects often attract more engaged user base. How can hackathons teams use this to their advantage? Could this engagement impact the project's chance of winning or its potential future success? Open source tools are typically free and accessible, reducing the barriers for participation in a hackathon. How can the hackathons further promote inclusivity and access? Open source projects can benefit many eyes looking at the code, leading to faster detection and fixing of bugs. Can this collaboration approach quality assurance work effectively in a time-pressured environment like a hackathon? Participation in open source projects is an excellent opportunity for individuals to showcase their talent. How can hackathons make the most of this talent discovery aspect? Working with open source can improve participants' understanding of code sharing and collaboration, important skills for any software developer. How can hackathons empathize and enhance this skill with development aspect? Open source projects by their nature are more likely to be sustainable and have longer lifespans. After the hackathon, these projects can continue to grow and evolve to help the community. What can the participants do to ensure that the projects remain relevant and useful post the hackathon? Open source hackathon projects can often be immediately useful to society. How can hackathons be structured to encourage projects with real-world impacts? Open source licenses can help hackathon projects to continue to grow and evolve after the event, gaining further input and innovation from the community. How can teams effectively transition their projects to this post-hackathon stage? There are many successful hackathon projects that have used open source license. Exploring what these cases are and valuable insights, learning points from those for future participants. What are some common factors in these successful projects? Using open source software can have multiple advantages over proprietary software in a hackathon, such as ease of use, scalability, and customization. What are the advantages what other advantages might there be? And how can teams leverage these? Open source can help ensure all participants have equal access to the resources. It is democratic, allowing for fair competition. How can hackathons further promote this equality? Contributing to open source projects can build an individual or team's reputation within the developer community, What impact could this have on a participant's future careers prospects or opportunity? Participation in open source projects can enhance a participant's employability, as many employers value this experience. How can participants highlight this experience to potential employers? Open source projects with hackathons can benefit from broad perspectives and come with diverse teams. How can hackathons encourage and support diversity and inclusion? Open source licensing has indisputably benefits when applied in the context of a hackathon, ranging from fostering collaboration to promoting innovation and reducing development time. While these advantages are clear, it is also necessary to consider the associated challenges, like maintaining fair competition, ensuring quality, and navigating legal issues. By encouraging further thought and discussion around these topics, participants can approach the hackathon better prepared and a deeper understanding of how to make the most out of open source projects. Ultimately, these insights not only benefit the participants, but also the broader community, as the solution created during these hackathons can have lasting real-world impact. As we continue to navigate an increasing digital world, the role of open source and collaborative innovation will only grow in importance. Thank you.